Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of I'm Not My Lung Disease. My name is Sebastian. I have idiopathic uh, interstitial lung disease. And if you check out episode 1, you'll get a little bit more information on all that. So I'm not going to go over the stuff I had in episode 1. That was a long one. I'm going to try to keep this short. But first off, for those that joined me last week, or my last episode, I talked about trying to get on the lung transplant list. Well, as of right now, I'm deferred for 2 months. Um, they want to go ahead and get my weight down a little bit more. I've done great. I've lost almost 80 pounds in the last year and a half. So I'm doing good on my weight. I'm going in the right direction. So after 2 months, I'll probably be where they want me to be. So I'm not worried about that. So as I said before, I got interstitial lung disease. And again, if you watched my first video, I said this is my second round, quote, second round of this. So I want to take you back to my first round. My first round happened about 23 years ago, is when it started. And it started with me thinking I had pneumonia or just something real bad. And it happened to be around Christmas time. And both my mother-in-law and my mother were actually in town for Christmas that year, and which was another story in itself. But having uh, both your mother and mother-in-law in town at the same time, but that's another story for another time. So I started feeling sick and everything, and then I think it was the day after Christmas, uh, I just started feeling real bad, and I couldn't breathe or anything. And we rushed me to the hospital, and I got to spend time in the hospital for a couple of days. The doctors at that point didn't know what was going on with me. Again, this is another reason I'm doing this is you got to find the right doctor for what's going on with you. But the ER doctors really didn't know what was going on with me. Had some weird things going on. So I went to the ER. I got to spend a nice 5 days in the hospital then because my O2 level was all messed up and everything. So actually got to spend my fifth anniversary in the hospital. Yeah, that was fun. Hey, happy anniversary! You're in the hospital. But so that's when it started. So then for the next couple of years, about 3 or 4 years, I think it was 3 years, um, I floated around trying to find the right doctor. One pulmonologist I went to was saying it was asthma, was treating me for asthma, um, but just something didn't feel right or anything. But I was going with the doctor, and okay, it's asthma. So this is then we're up to right before my oldest son was born, and we decided as a couple, my wife and I, that hey, this is our last time that we're going to get to have fun before having kids. So we went up to this place in northeastern Arizona. Actually, it's on the very eastern border of Arizona between Arizona and New Mexico. It's called Hannigan Meadows. The elevation is over 9,000 feet. I can't remember the exact height right now, but the elevation's over 9,000 feet. So what happened was we're up there, and on the way up, I just started feeling weird. Not totally lightheaded, just weird as we were driving up there. But hey, this was a weekend away from my wife. I knew it was the last one we were going to do before our oldest was born, so I didn't want to ruin it for her. I didn't want to ruin it for myself. So we get to this place over 9,000 feet, and again, I'm feeling a little weird, but nothing major. So we get to this place, our room at this lodge. This lodge is an old lodge, in basically the middle of nowhere. This lodge, the room we had, was at the top of some narrow steps. And I carried the luggage up and everything. I'm getting short of breath going up there. I'm like, you know what? It's just me not used to the elevation. So we get up there, we get settled in, we have dinner at the lodge because that's the only place you can eat there because there's nothing else around. And so we're up there, excuse me, we're up there at Hannigan Meadows and go to bed. We'll play some games. There happened to be a church group there from the Mormon church that, as you, if you know Mormons, they like to play games a lot and do a lot of family nice stuff. So we're up there. We go to sleep, and I couldn't sleep. All of a sudden, I started having chest pains. This is like 2 o'clock in the morning. I started having chest pains and everything, and there's no cell phone signal. I'm telling you, this is the middle of nowhere. All there was that we had access to was a payphone down in the lobby. So my wife, being 6 months pregnant, uh, goes down these steps, gets to the phone, dials 911, tells them where we're at. They're like, "Oh, okay, let's get someone out there. Let's get the ambulance out there. Let's get someone out there." Oh, can't get the ambulance out there because there was a blizzard going on. This was in February, so there's a blizzard going on. So the can't get the ambulance out there for a while. Let's get the air helicopter out there. Well, air helicopter was grounded, so they couldn't get me out there. So so the next thing she knows is they're like, okay, we're going to go ahead and send out an ambulance. So they did. And the closest ambulance was about 15 miles away. Yeah, I'm telling you, I was in the middle of nowhere. And so the closest ambulance was 15 miles away, and they had to have a snowplow go in front of the ambulance and the paramedics to clear the road so the ambulance could get to me. So the ambulance gets to me, and I talk and they get me up. I'm at the top of the steps. The stretcher won't. It's real narrow the steps. They can't get a stretcher up there. They can't even get the chair that they use to carry people down steps up there. So I had to walk down the steps. They get me on the stretcher, and they take my blood oxygen, which I explained last week, which 95 is the normal. I'm at 52. I had more than just a problem with the altitude. So I get in, we get in, they basically get me on oxygen. I get me on oxygen. My O2 level comes back to up in the 90s, so we're good to go. We go to the closest town at the hospital, which was Springerville in Arizona. I call it the Springerville Hair Care and Hospital and Elderly Center because basically it was an old school that was converted to a hospital and a senior center or senior living place on one side, but it was brand new. Uh, so we woke up the intern, that the resident, I think it was that. Now I think about it was the resident. They do a CT scan. They do a bunch of stuff. Test me for a heart attack. There's a level called troponin, which they use to check and see if you've had a heart attack, your troponin levels. So they send that out, um, and they get the troponin levels back, and they're like, "Oh, this guy had a major heart attack." I'm like, "I'm only like 30 something. Was like that was my early 30s." They're like, "This guy had a major heart attack." So the next morning, um, the luckily now let's go back to the Mormon group, which I'm never going to say anything really bad about Mormons because they're great people. They actually drove my car 30 miles to us one way to drop off the car to my wife. So the next morning, um, they were like, okay, we got to get you down to Phoenix real quick to the Phoenix Heart Hospital. So I get a plane ride. They didn't have a helicopter to fly me down. So I got a medical transport airplane from, Sholo, which was even farther down the road from Springerville to, Phoenix Sky Harbor. From Phoenix Sky Harbor, an ambulance took me to Arizona Heart Hospital, where I got my first cardiac cath. Yay! So the cardiac doctor does the cardiac cath, and because he was basing it on what the people in Springerville told him, but he hadn't seen my files yet. But he was going off the verbal of what the people in Springerville told him. Well, after my cardiac cath, it turns out that the people in Springerville read my troponin level wrong. They transposed the numbers. So no, I was not having a major heart attack. So I got a cardiac cath for no reason at all at that point. Yay, fun stuff. So, but the problem was um, that my wife was left in Springerville. My wife didn't know how to get back to Phoenix. So and this was before GPS or anything like that. So she did her best getting back to get back. Along the way, she actually got pulled over by DPS, and she was like crying. You know, here she is 6 months pregnant. Um, DPS pulls her over, and she's like crying up a storm. And the DPS officer actually told her how to get to where she needed to go, and just told her to slow down. So, which is good. She got there right as I was. I don't know. I was a little foggy. It was either at the time that I went to the cardiac cath or afterwards. But okay, so I had the cardiac cath for no reason at all. The cardiologist said I haven't got anything wrong with my heart. So they're like, okay, well, we got to still figure out what the lung disease is. So they sent me to another pulmonologist. This pulmonologist has me do a CT scan, and then he looks at my CT scan and says, "Hey, you got these ground glass granules in your mouth in your lungs. It's still showing up as ground glass on the CT." Now, if you're familiar with interstitial lung disease, that is the sign of interstitial lung disease. How much that's the actual scarring. So, let me take a drink. So so the guy's like, "Oh, you got interstitial lung disease. There's no cure. You're just gonna have to do therapy, and hopefully it doesn't get worse." So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, oh well, I got interstitial lung disease. I'll just deal with it. And while I was waiting for every fate I had, I saw an ad in the newspaper, and this is back before digital classifieds or anything like that. Right. Or before digital classifieds. The ad was for a study participant for a research drug for interstitial lung disease. So I'm like, I'm going to die anyways. What the heck? I'll go do the study. So I went to go qualify for the study. Um, oh, in the meantime, they did something. I had something called a thoracotomy done. Except this was endoscopic thoracotomy. Sometimes thoracotomy they make a big slit in your side and take out lung samples. This one they did with an endoscope. They just took out a little sample and put on slides. Looked at the slides, said, "Yep, has interstitial lung disease." So okay, now we're back to the trying to get into the trial for the interstitial lung disease drug. So they're basically going to go ahead and do all their protocols to go through and make sure I have interstitial lung disease. One of the things they did is they looked at the slides from my thoracotomy I had, and they sent these off to someplace in England that was part of the trial. So I go back to the doctor to see if I qualify for the trial. And look, I walk in the room. First thing they say to me is, "You got birds." Well, I just happen to have a bird, a cockatiel, or called fugly. Cause, oh, we're not going to go into why we call them fugly, but we had fugly and we had a bird. And the guy goes, "Get rid of the birds." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You don't have interstitial lung disease. You have hypersensitive pneumatosis or bird fanciers lung. So there's a little protein in the bird feathers and dander They irritate your lungs. So he's like, get rid of the birds. Here's a bunch of steroids to take for, I think, a year. My wife thinks it was more than a year. I think it was just a year. And by this time, I was already on oxygen too back then. But um, so you see, they gave me a bunch of steroids. I took the steroids for a year, about a year, and afterwards, perfectly fine, perfectly fine. And I go now. I think now then I go like almost 17 years. Actually, no, it'd been more like 18 years after that. No problems at all. Nothing major. So that is my first round of interstitial lung disease. So now I'm going to take in the next episode. I will take you through what is going on now. Um, Now, like I said, my second round is worse than the first round. Um, I can't remember what song it is. There was one a whole lot louder and a whole lot more. I can't remember the song, but yeah, well, long story short, before that next episode where I go into my current situation, um, I should have been being monitored after the steroids, which I wasn't. So again, find the right doctor to do this. So we'll go ahead into getting that information on the next episode. I know the other one was a little long, so I'm trying to keep this one shorter. Again, all I'm asking right now is for prayers. I know I got a 2 month delay on my get onto the lung transplant list. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make that. The body mass index that they want it to be. I'm at 34.2 last office visit, and they want me at 33. Um, so I calculated I only got to lose like 6 pounds, and I'm at 33 for my body mass index. So maybe next time one of these times I'll explain body mass index too, but you can look it up if you want. So for right now, all I'm doing is asking for your love, your prayers, your thoughts, and just I want to help me get through this because I'm not going to give up. I'm going to survive because I am not my lung disease. Thank you very much.